This is the Brewers POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Milwaukee Brewers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Disappointing start for your Milwaukee Brewers in the second half of the season there at American Family Field. An ugly 5-1 loss this afternoon in game one of their three-game series hosting the Marlins there. Lots to talk about on the program today. The offensive struggles were on display once again for the Brewers in this one. Really, this game was decided. We'll get into the scoring summary shortly in the turning point in this one. The seventh inning turned out to be the costly point in this game for the Brewers, and another uncharacteristic day for the Brewers on the defensive side of things. We'll get into all of that. Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Locked On Brewers POSTCAST. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on X at Brandon_.com or at Brandon_Snide. And you can follow all of my work over at WTMJ.com. There we go, where we cover all of our Wisconsin sports teams. Thank you for always making Locked On Brewers part of your day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get audio podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, all those terrific apps. And you can go over on YouTube as well and subscribe there. Just type in the search bar, Locked On Brewers. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, get notified when we go live discussing our Milwaukee Brewers and a 5-1 loss today. Let's get into your scoring summary presented today by Gametime and Game Day Hue, a new partner of Locked On Brewers. We'll talk about them as the show rolls on. We begin in the third inning for this one. Freddy Peralta getting the start for the Brew Crew. Stowers with a solo shot to left center there in the third inning. But the Brewers, like they have really over the course of the last month and a half, 2 months or so, would respond. Jackson Chourio, a no-doubter to left center field there. An 18-game hitting streak for Jackson Chourio now. So if you're looking at this Brewers box score and maybe you didn't watch the game because you're working, it's a day game on a Friday, and you pull up the box score and you see only 4 hits for the Brewers, it was an ugly day at the plate for Milwaukee. Jackson Chourio, one of the 4 hits. Isaac Collins, Andrew Vaughn, and Caleb Durbin would round up the 4 hits for the Brew Crew at the plate this afternoon. But the good news, Christian Yelich also extending his on-base streak to 30 games. He had a walk there, I believe that was in the 8th or 9th inning, one of the two. So Jackson Chourio, 18-game hit streak. Christian Yelich on base now for 30 straight games. We'll go to your turning point in this one, the 7th inning in a 5-1 Brewers loss.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Big one in the 7th inning. Aaron Ashby was on for a little bit. Nick Mears would eventually relieve him. A handful of walks in this inning. The bases were loaded for Otto Lopez. He would double to center field. That wowould be a rule that double. Blake Perkins there in center field would bobble the ball. That would allow another run to score. That would make it 4-1. And Liam Hicks would eventually hit a deep sacrifice fly out there to right field. That would score Otto Lopez, who advanced to third on the Blake Perkins error out there in center. Frustrating inning for a lot of different reasons, not only in a tight ball game where you had opportunities to get out of that inning, but Nick Mears issuing a couple of walks, very uncharacteristic of him. A couple of those too, especially against Ramirez in that inning. He had the count at 0-2 and was just unable. It felt like, and I'll give credit where credit's due to Dan Bellino behind the plate today and calling balls and strikes. The zone was pretty consistent for the most part of the day, but it felt like in that moment in the 7th inning, it got extremely even tighter. But you got to give Miami a lot of credit in that inning for the patience at the plate, and they play a little bit like you're watching Miami. This is the second time we've now seen them. They remind me a lot of the Brewers at the plate, right? They're pesky. They're hard to get out. They're going to take their pitches. They're going to be patient at the plate. Their approach is going to be right. And that was what we saw today, especially in that inning against Nick Mears and Aaron Ashby. That would be the scoring it. That would be it. 5-1. The Brewers would lose. We talked about Freddy Peralta getting the start. Not a fantastic start for Freddy Peralta. The numbers aren't great, not bad, but they're not great either on the other side of it. And we've talked about this on a number of occasions during Freddy's starts. And you can always tell a good start or a great start when Freddy Peralta is pitching, especially in the first 3 innings or so. After the second inning had finished, he had 44 pitches. He had 22 in the first inning. That's the issue going forward with Freddy Peralta. And that's the one thing that I guess if you want to point at something that's frustrating about his game, I think he's still an ace on this Brewers staff. I think he's a terrific pitcher. He's an all-star, obviously, but 5 innings pitched and he threw 98 pitches. So not a good consistent performance today from Freddy Peralta. 5 hits allowed. He did allow one earned run. He did walk 9 batters. So, again, with the strikeouts, you're going to have higher pitch counts, but he worked really deep into counts today and just didn't click consistently enough throughout the game for Freddy Peralta with the high pitch count. Aaron Ashby, as we had mentioned, Nick Mears also struggling a bit. He would allow 2 runs, and Grant Anderson and Tobias Myers would round out the Brewers bullpen appearances this afternoon at American Family Field, a 5-1 loss. The loss dropping the Brewers back down 19 games under 500, 61-42. We'll see what happens with the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox to see where the Brewers are positioned after tonight's results in the National League Central. The good news for the Brewers is you have Jose Quintana on the mound to hopefully get the team back on track at home. So not the way you wanted to start the homestand if you're rooting for the Brew Crew. A really, really good road trip to begin the second half of the season out there in LA and in Seattle. Seattle already involved in the trade market, and LA is LA. They went 5-1 on that road trip. So the momentum was certainly coming home for the Brewers, but let's not take anything away from the Miami Marlins in this game. Now, 4 games under 500 now with the win, but this team has been playing much better as of late. Now, if you go back to before the All-Star break, when the Brewers were playing the Marlins, they were one of the hottest teams in baseball coming into that series. They had won 9 out of their last 10. Today, this weekend, no difference. It feels like it's kind of the same team, and we'll see what happens throughout the trade deadline for them. A couple of names on that roster being mentioned amongst early rumors, but the Marlins now winners of 7 of their last 9 games, including 3 in a row. So again, a tough stretch offensively for our Brew Crew. And certainly if you look at the top of the order today for the production offensively for the Brewers, 0 for 11 between Bryce Terrain, William Contreras, and Christian Yelich. Now, Christian Yelich did have a walk, but he was still 0 for 3. If you want to include the top 4, and this isn't to knock Churio, who had your only RBI of the game, only run batted in, but they were 1 for 15, including Churio, if you include Churio's 1 for 4. So you're not getting any production out of the top 4 batters in your lineup today. Isaac Collins was in the 5-hole, 0 for 3. Andrew Vaughn, 0 for 2. Tyler Black would eventually take over. You're getting nothing in the middle of your lineup. And in the bottom half of your lineup, where this Brewers team has been really, really good, when that bottom of the half of the lineup produces or at least is involved, Caleb Durbin, your only hit of the day from the bottom 3 batters in this order as well. If you're looking at this Brewers team and you're pounding the table for Eugenio Suarez or another bat out there, today would probably be a perfect example of why you need a bat in the lineup or why you want a bat in the lineup. So I'm anticipating a lot of reaction on the trade market for the Brewers. We'll dive into all of that, your thoughts, your reactions, coming up right after this. Today's Locked On Brewers is brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided last minute you want to head to the ballpark with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab those last minute ticket deals without any of the stress. Plus, with the money you save on tickets, you can now splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. They make buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app, believe it or not, actually drop the closer you get to the first pitch. And they've got incredible last minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worrying out of buying. I love it because you can see the view from the seat on the app. It's absolutely fantastic. You can take the guesswork out of buying those tickets. Download the Gametime app today, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. You guys can go to American Family Field this weekend for practically free. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, LOCKED on ONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Lowest tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Once again, Gametime. Today's program also brought to you by our wonderful folks at Game Day Hue. They make clean, no logo gear, team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. If you're on the live stream right now, got my Game Day Hue hat on right now. It's in Brewer Blue. It's all about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart and versatile style that works on game day, on the course, and anywhere in between. And it's not just hats. It's not just hats, guys. Check this out if you're on the live stream. These split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Right now, you can get 15% off with code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. Once again, that's GameDayHue, HUE.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. Tough one for the Brewers returning home to American Family Field after their West Coast road trip in the second half of the season here. A 5-1 loss, and Otto Lopez double in the seventh would prove to be too costly today for the Brewers. Offensively, only 4 hits, and defensively, a very uncharacteristic game for the Brew Crew. 3 errors out there, including that Blake Perkins bobble, which when the game started, the first inning, maybe the second inning, Blake Perkins saving a home run. Didn't make the catch, but he brought the ball back from over the fence. It would roll back over. So you thought good things might be happening early for this Brewers team, but unfortunately, defensively, just a tough outing for the bullpen, for the offense. Freddy Peralta really not efficient in his start. 98 pitches thrown, only 5 innings of work. He did have 9 strikeouts. Tough one for Nick Mears this afternoon. A couple of walks in that 7th inning, as we had mentioned, would allow Otto Lopez to hit a 1-out. It would be 3 runs. 2 of them would be earned. 1 would score on an error. A very disappointing performance for the Brewers, who, with the Alumni Home Run Derby and an afternoon day game at American Family Field, returning back home, having a really good road trip, being the best team in baseball, the hottest team in baseball, a letdown for the fans at American Family Field. As Cap, we begin with our everydayer over on YouTube. A pathetic performance by the bullpen this afternoon. More 0-2 counts turned walks or base hits than it seems I can count. Knew this game was going to be rough when balls were inches away, not called. It was a tight zone. Very, very tight zone. And again, you're going to have those. I'm fine with those zones if they're consistent. A couple nights ago in Seattle, it wasn't consistent. I was more irritated after that, but at least today it was consistent. I give the Marlins a lot of credit, especially in that 7th inning. When Nick Mears comes in for Aaron Ashby, after Ashby allowed a guy on and Nick Mears allows a couple of walks, those pitches they were taking were extremely I don't know how that those guys were taking those pitches and watching them pass. They were really, really tight, and literally, as Cap says, maybe an inch away after off of the plate, and just unfortunate for the Brewers as they load the bases up, and Otto Lopez makes Nick Mears pay. Everydayer Jason over on YouTube. Bats caught napping today and did nothing but the home run. High count for Freddie and a horrible 7th inning on Mears. That pretty much sums up the game, right? And I appreciate the thoughts there, Jason. Yeah, the Bats, no energy, no juice whatsoever offensively for this Brewers team. Outside of Jackson Chourio, solo home run there. In the 4th inning, that was about it. Only 3 hits outside of that home run. Freddy Peralta, not efficient whatsoever, especially in the first 3 innings. That pitch count was climbing and climbing, climbing. You knew in the 3rd inning you'd be lucky to get to 5, and certainly they eventually did get to 5, but it was not easy. And then the 7th inning proved to be the turning point, as we have discussed in this one. Harley Everydayer over on YouTube. Need another bat by the deadline. Too many cold spells that we've seen this season. Trade deadline off and running. Josh Naylor from Arizona to Seattle, a team we just played. Ryan McMahon from Denver on his way to New York. I would anticipate trade talks and trades will start to pick up as we continue on throughout the course of this weekend. Also going to find it very interesting when the Brewers, and I know I'm looking ahead a little bit here, when the Brewers take on the Cubs at American Family Field Monday, that series begins. There could be a completely different looking Cubs team or a completely looking different Brewers team for that series, or in the middle of the series. So that's going to be interesting going forward. See what this what those two teams do, because it is right. The Brewers are right there. The Cubs are right there. Two teams that want to improve drastically. The Cubs more so probably pitching than anything. And the Brewers on the other end of that, needing some offense. As Powers Jr. over on YouTube says, need a offensive bat. And again, Eugenio Suarez is the lottery out there. We'll see which team decides to cash in. It's going to be very, very interesting. The latest rumor with Arizona is talking to multiple people out there in Phoenix is they want a high, the price tag is high and they want controllable arms. So we'll see. I don't know if you're a Brewers fan, you're kind of just, patting the table or, with your offer there, because the Brewers have probably more of that than anybody that is currently out on the market. The Reds now being linked to Suarez. So we'll see. We mentioned the Cubs were in on him. The Yankees were already linked to him. Seattle also linked to him. So I think you could probably take the Yankees off of that with the addition of Ryan McMahon, but we'll see what that price tag looks like. I would anticipate here in the next few days. Everydayer Cody, Freddy Peralta needs to work on pitching less than more. I hope they aren't overlooking the Marlins too. That Cubs series, I hate how they have the best team, but struggle with this. There's probably a little bit of that, right? I also think it's a very weird, I don't want to say out of their element, a Friday mid-afternoon game at home, probably maybe throwing them off a little bit. I'm not giving them excuses. There's no excuse for overlooking a team, but it's a weird game. It's a weird start. There's a lot of festivities in the air with the alumni home run. After the game, they're having a bunch of the alumni on the field for the 25th anniversary of American Family Field. But this is, like we've mentioned, this is a really good Marlins team. 7 of their last 9 games. Like when we played them prior to the All-Star break, they were also a really hot team. And I remember talking about that series after Brandon Woodruff pitched that Sunday afternoon game. I think that it was very, interesting that after that series, the Brewers started to click. I said, put a pin, put a bookmark in that series, because that was a Marlins team that was a lot better than their record indicated. Steven over on YouTube, Durbin's moving to shortstop. We're getting Suarez. Yeah, that was also interesting. So if you're watching the game or you're recapping the game with us, number one, appreciate you. Thank you. Joey Ortiz was taken out of that last inning for a defensive movement for Siegler went to third. Caleb Durbin moved over to shortstop. Now, I'm sure after the game, we'll not get any information. There'll be nothing there. It could have been just getting Siegler out there and maybe seeing Durbin at shortstop, but it definitely allowed you to raise your eyebrows a little bit in that one. Ken over on YouTube, Perkins, that last pitch, although iffy, was a strike. He's got to do better protecting the plate. Yeah, again, don't end a game with the bat on your shoulder. I know that's kind of like I sound like a broken record, and you probably heard it from your little league coach back in the day, but you got guys on second and third. Yes, there's 2 outs. Yes, the full count. Yes, it could have went either way, I think, if you're Perkins. But I agree with Ken. If it's that, you got to put the ball in play. And look how good this Brewers team has been when they've put the ball in play. Like, they just have been such a different team. And you go back to that Mariners game, that game 3 where they scored 10 runs. And I mean, all they did was put the ball in play. It was nothing flashy. They didn't hit a ton of home runs in that game. Heck, they didn't even hit one in that game, but they had 17 hits. They put the ball in play, and that's what they failed to do this afternoon. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position were the Brewers, 6 runners left on base. Now, if you want to flip over the other side and call spade a spade, well, the Marlins weren't any better either, right? You take away that 7th inning, they were 0 for 7. They finished the game 1 for 8 because of the Otto Lopez double there, but they left 10 guys on base as well. So not a lot of offense for either one of these teams. The 7th inning, just the backbreaker for the Brewers in a 5-1 loss. Kitchen Raccoon over on YouTube. If Marquet doesn't shell for a bat this year, he isn't beating these stingy allegations. A lot of reaction will come his way if he doesn't decide to dip his toes into the trade market. It is a very tricky trade market this year, right? The expanded playoffs have made it a little more intriguing. Some teams maybe believing they have more of a chance than they actually do. Not Arizona. Arizona is all about selling. Rumor is a couple more players, including Suarez, will probably be dealt. So I think if the move is to be made, it's definitely going to be out there for Marquet, for Matt Arnold to make. But again, it's all going to be about that asking price. And does Arizona hike up that asking price because of the talent and the plethora, of pitchers that the Brewers have. And if you're Matt Arnold and maybe if you're Mark A, are you willing to part with a player that you haven't really seen yet, who's down in, let's say, Nashville, or, single ball baseball, or double A in Biloxi? I thought Rock brought up a good point during the television broadcast, and he brought this up, and I'll end with this, and it's a question. If you're watching this video, you're listening to this, and I implore you to give me this answer. If you knew the Brewers were going to trade away Jackson Chourio for a bat for that season, would you have pulled the trigger? If you know what you know now, and some team, let's say Arizona, hypothetically, wanted Jackson Chourio, who was, let's say, down at the time in Double A, would you have taken that trade for, name a bat, in that year before you were able to see Jackson Chourio? That's the question. That's the dilemma that these guys are facing. It's a good proposition to ask yourself, right? It's a fun proposition to kind of ponder back and forth. But boy, you got to at least look back and be like, that's a really, really tough decision. And I don't know if that's something that the Brewers are willing to do, especially because of how successful they have been. Now, the definition of successful can go a couple different ways. I think at this point, we expect deeper playoff runs. We expect to push the envelope a little further than just making the wild card or just winning the National League Central, although those are good things to do. As a Brewer fan, we want to see that advance to the next stage and eventually have a World Series championship right here in Milwaukee. That'll do it for today's show. My thanks to each and every one of you for always tuning in to the Locked On Brewers postcast. Remember, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Google, Spotify, many, many more terrific apps. We're also available over on YouTube. Just go to that search bar, type in Locked On Brewers, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that thumbs up, and we will break down the Brewers all season long. We'll do it again tomorrow evening in Game 2. Jose Quintana on the mound for Milwaukee. My name is Brandon Snide. You can follow me on X at Brandon_ and at Brandon _ Snide. I cannot get the X handle right today, guys. I don't know what's going on. You can follow me at X at Brandon _ Snide, and we'll break down Game 2 tomorrow evening. My thanks to each and every one of you. As always, win, lose, or draw, it is always go Brewers. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.